Welcome to the Rowan's podcast. I am the Rowan. This is episode 12, so grab yourself a cup of coffee, a comfy seat, and let's chat. I really should give a shout out to my best friend, Sue, who has been a source of inspiration for me for ideas and subjects to touch on for my podcast. I am very new at this, and a lot of times I have a difficulty trying to figure out what I should talk about, and I do kind of pick her brain every now and then, and she has been an immense amount of help to me. So shout out to Sue. Thank you very much. I love you dearly, my friend. And I wish all blessings on you. Thank you. So this episode, I am going to touch on autistic shutdown and autistic meltdowns. And my own experience with these things and how these two things can create issues within relationships, especially when your partner doesn't understand what's going on. And especially when you yourself don't understand what's going on. Because some of this stuff, I didn't understand that that's why I was doing these things or what was happening to me and until I looked into it or just happened across information that led me to it. And I just kind of want to share it in case anyone else is kind of experiencing these things. And I just want to let you know that this is all normal stuff for us. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with us. It's just how our brains function. And it's more like I tend to think of it, I could be wrong, but I tend to think of it as a defensive mechanism for autism, I think. Now, by a shutdown, what I mean is like if, say, my husband and I get into a disagreement or argument of some sort, and if I feel overwhelmed during it, I could just end up feeling overwhelmed or I hate to use the word unsafe because I don't want to make it seem like he's hurting me, and that's not it. It's just like immensely stressed, and I feel emotions very deeply, especially rejection. I am convinced I have that rejection sensitivity dysphoria, but I don't know for sure, so I'm not going to say that I really do. And I'm really not exactly sure even what that is. My understanding is that you just feel rejection, whether it's real or perceived, or real or just perceived. You feel it intensely, and it is a horrible feeling. And one day I will touch on that, but I know if I get any kind of negativity towards him, or even I think that there might possibly be negativity towards him, it's like my world completely shatters. And I get this, I know, during arguments or whatever, and it might not even be like a bad argument. We could disagree over the color of cheese or something, you know. But anyways, if it's I'm sorry, I'm babbling on. If it is a bad enough argument where I am feeling really stressed, I will shut down. And for me, this means that I go silent. I won't look at him. I'll look anywhere but, or I will find a fixed point somewhere away from looking at him and just stare at that. I will go completely into my own little shell, my own little world. And, but, and the inside my head is just screaming and fighting. And it's like, I want to escape. I want to run. But I can't. And then I have so many words in my head, like he'll ask me questions and I can't answer because I'm in that shutdown mode. Everything is just completely turned off, but yet my brain is just so active with everything, and I want to answer him, but there's all these words and all these feelings and everything, and it's just like a big jumble, mixed up mess that I can't even string together the words to go through my mouth, and I can't even get my mouth to move to form those words because it just like it all stops. That connection stops, and there's so much, and I have been able to tell him before, there's just so much in my head, I can't get it out, like I can't answer. And I don't think he really understands that, because I get so you're not talking to me now. I get that. So you're not talking to me now. I get it. Fine. And get that attitude coming from him, and he thinks that I am just doing the snubbing thing, like, oh, well, I'm not going to talk to you, I'm mad at you, so there. He thinks that that's what it is. And I actually have not had this conversation with him yet to explain this to him, other than the fact that I have told him there's so many words in my head that I just can't, but in that moment, sometimes I can't even say that to him. And I go silent. I can't. And it's on the outside, it looks to him like I'm just sitting there staring out the window, totally, ignoring him. And the inside of me is just all these words, all these things I want to say to him, all this, questions or answers, that he asked me a question and I might have an answer for him and everything. And it's just like, I can't. But I have some information here that I'm going to read that might explain it a little bit more. And this is from a website. It says Move Up ABA Therapy, Understanding Autistic Shutdown, Key Signs to Recognize. And I chose this one because it's more concise and it's easier for me to read it. It's more simple and more direct to the point. It says like common signs of a shutdown for autistics is withdrawal from social interaction. Well, we can check that box right there. Silence or inability to speak, definitely. Avoidance of eye contact, yippers. Becoming unresponsive to communication, oh yeah. And retreating for overwhelming stimuli, and yes. That too. Like if I'm in a spot where I can get away, like if I'm not in a car, if I'm like in a house or something like that, I might want to retreat to another room. He has the unfortunate habit of making me stay so that we can discuss matters and we can get it worked out, because he honestly just wants to work it out, and he's seeing me as I'm fleeing, and I just want to avoid him. And this is one of our relationship things with my autism that we really need to work on, but it's difficult. Like for me, I have tried to tell him, like, because I'll even at some point I do, like if I am, how can I explain? Well, this would be more in the meltdown area, though. We'll get to that in a minute. But I do know in the meltdown, I do have a thing of wanting to retreat as well. And when I'm in a meltdown, I will say that I want to leave. That I'll just leave. I'll just let him, I'll go so he can have everything will be fine for him. But to me, and I have explained this to him, to me, I just feel like it's because I'm the one in the wrong, that if I moved out, then his life could be better and he wouldn't have to deal with me anymore. And that I'm moving out for him, not because I'm moving out because I want better. I'm moving out to help him. then of course I never move out, but during these arguments. But it's just I get that overwhelming feeling like I think that's the rejection sensitivity stuff. Is I get the overwhelming feeling that I'm in the wrong, therefore I'm the one that needs to make his life better by letting him not have to deal with me anymore. To like if I move out, then I don't know. I can't explain it. I'm just babbling on, and here's where I really wish I had the editing editing program. But I don't know if I'm getting that across to everybody the right way. But and then it gives you examples of the different signs, like withdrawal, the individual retreats from social interaction, silence, inability to speak or communicate, needs, avoidance of eye contact. That's obvious there. Pretty much all of those are pretty obvious. You don't really need an explanation of what they are. And I do have shutdowns, and I never understood what they were before. I never said that it was a part of my autistic traits. I just thought it was just me being there's something wrong, with me. But it's not. It's just that overwhelm, and it just takes over the brain. And then now meltdowns are different. And this is the thing that I'm starting to understand, that, yeah, I do get these meltdowns. Like, I used to think of meltdowns as when my son, my oldest son, Buddy, now when he used to have meltdowns, they were pretty bad. Like, they were violent, and he was a strong kid. Even from a young age, he was a strong kid. I remember one time I was pregnant with my middle son, and he had a meltdown, and I was nowhere strong enough to be able to control him and to help him, And my stepdaughter at the time was living with us, and she was helping me. And between the two of us, we could not control him. I mean, not even physically. We couldn't, like, just grab hold to calm him down or anything. We just could not. He was way too strong, and we ended up having to get a neighbor from across the street to come over and help, who was, an adult, a bigger adult who could come and help. And it was kind of hard with him. He would yell, he would fight, he would hurt himself, things like that. Now, that was when he was younger, like a child, and his emotions were more erratic and harder to control him. He still gets them a bit when he's older now, and he's much bigger and he's much stronger, but he generally doesn't get like that, where he's like completely combative and he's like throwing punches, and he's a little bit better. I won't say he's never done anything to hurt anybody while he's in a meltdown, but not nowhere near like he did when he was a child. And if he was still doing the things he was as a child, as an adult, with the physique he has now, it would be extremely dangerous. But he doesn't have them as often anymore. But as me, as far as my meltdowns, I get extremely emotional. I yell. I yell. I cry. I feel that rejection deeply, and I feel like my entire world is crumbling into pieces and everything is shattering and falling apart at my feet. So much so that it's painful, like pain, like that emotion, those emotions turn into a deep, stabbing, hurting pain. And it's different from like emotional pain. It's an actual physical type pain. And all my husband sees is when I say, well, fine, I'll just, I'll move, or that I get up to go and I get up to go grab my stuff to, pack my things or whatever. It's because I'm running off of that emotion. I'm running off of that pain. And the only thing I could think of to get rid of that pain is to correct the issue. And the issue is me. I see it as me. I'm the problem. I'm the one that's having the issue. I'm the one that whatever. And so my idea of solving it logically, no, one would argue that at that point I'm not being logical, but my autistic brain is thinking the problem is this, so this is the logical way to correct it. Do this, but my ADHD emotions, because we all know ADHD, the emotional regulation is right out the door. Let me be in a combo of the both. I can still think logically, but react emotionally out the window. You know what I mean? And so I got that. And so that's what I think. Well, so fine, I'll just move out, and I'll go live with my son if I have to. And you don't have to worry about this problem. It's not me trying to get back at him. It's me just trying to fix the problem in a logical way, but in an emotional, it's, and he hates that. He doesn't understand that. And I never understood why I reacted this way. Like I would go so, whatever, or I would just turn into a ball and cry, just weep, uncontrollably just weep and cry it out. And just everything would just cover me, like every failure, every bad thing that I could think of, every guilt, every shame, every failure, everything. And it wouldn't even pertain to the argument, or the whatever that was going on that caused a meltdown. It's just all these things would come up and then I would just curl into a ball and just weep. And I know that there's something deeply, oh man, I can't say the word wrong because I don't mean wrong, but I know there's something deeply going on with me that I need help for. And there's a corner in my brain that's just whispering and telling me, you need somebody to hold you. You need somebody there. You need help. But then the bigger part of me that's just screeching in my head that's telling me all these horrible bad things and putting all this guilt and shame on me is like, no, you can't ever have anybody around you because you are not lovable. You are not whatever. You don't, and it's a horrifying thing to go through. It really is. And I wish I could explain it to my husband more. I wish I could explain it to my therapist more. And he does listen to my podcasts. And I think he's finding it beneficial because I'm able to open up more in my podcast than I am with my therapy sessions. And he has told me that. So, so maybe he'll listen to this one. But the point I'm trying to make with these meltdowns is that it's just, I never understood what it was before, and now I do. And now I need to figure out how to manage them. I mean, it's not like they happen a lot. It's just when they do, it gets scary for me. And it gets irritating for him because he tells me I'm acting like a spoiled brat. or I'm overreacting, or I shouldn't be upset about this, or whatever. Sometimes, though, he does hold me and help me through it. Especially if a meltdown is from a trigger from a traumatic event, because I do get meltdowns when I get triggers from, I have particular traumatic things in my life, and sometimes I get triggered on those, and if I melt down from those, he is right there to help me through it. Because I will delve back into flashbacks, and it'll be hard. It's hard for me to get out of those flashbacks, and he will just grab a hold of my face and just say, "Look at me, stay with me, I'm with you, stay with me. We are here in this moment," And that the first time he did that, it just helped so much. It's like something clicked in his head that this is what I need to do, and it did. And he does it every now and then, and it is an amazing help to me, especially when I'm falling into those flashbacks, and then resulting meltdowns from it. And but the ones that come from arguments and stuff, he doesn't understand, and I didn't understand before either until I researched it and stuff, that it was because of my autism. But there's I want to read this chart to you, the different characteristics between, how to tell the difference between a shutdown and a meltdown. And this might be beneficial to parents who have children who do these things, because and I do want to touch on this a little bit later on in the episode, as long as I don't forget, about dealing with meltdowns with autistic children in public. But the difference between the nature of an autistic shutdown is internal and subdued, but the nature of a meltdown is external, explosive. Definitely. The visibility of a shutdown often goes unnoticed, but meltdowns are easily noticeable. Definitely. The purpose of an autistic shutdown is as a protective coping mechanism, and the purpose of a meltdown is a response to sensory or emotional overload. And common indicators. For a shutdown, it's withdrawal and silence. And for meltdown, it's outbursts, crying, and shouting. So that's how you can kind of see the little bit of a difference there. It's because the shutdowns is more of like an internal type of thing, and a meltdown is more explosive, outward, external. Now, I'm sure everyone has experienced like going into a store and you've seen like a kid just having a full-blown meltdown. And a lot of people attributed that to just bad behavior. And I want to talk about this because a lot of parents who have autistic kids, they get like dirty looks from people, comments from people, and think either bad parenting or a misbehaving kid or whatever, and it's none of those things. And I know, like my son Buddy, he's had meltdowns in stores and at church, and things like that. And you get the dirty looks, you get the fun, the comments, and it is not something, especially a child, an autistic child, they cannot control this. They can't. And people really need to be educated. And I've heard of mothers having little cards on them so that when their child goes into this meltdown, that they give cards to the people who are standing around just staring at them or making comments, and in the little cards that explain that, hey, this is my child, he's autistic, he's having a meltdown, he's not, a bad kid, this is bad behavior, this is just, he's having trouble with the world right now. And that's a good idea. But, and that is, that is what the child is. The child is not behaving badly. The child is not whatever he is, having trouble with the world around him. Like Buddy, like I mentioned before, would curl up into a ball during Head Start and just screech and scream, with his hands over his head in a little ball, just screaming at the top of his lungs for 45 minutes. That was not him misbehaving. That was him trying to drown out the entire world because it was too much for him. Too much stimulus, too much overwhelm. And that was the only way he could do it, to curl up into a little protective ball and shut everything out. And people in public don't understand this, and I was told, just let him have his meltdown. Make sure he's safe, though. Like, step away. Don't touch him, because if you go and you try to touch them, or you go and you try to pull them up, get them up, or try to touch them or whatever, it creates more of an issue with them, like more of a sensory issue. And I was told, step away, don't engage, unless they're in danger of hurting themselves or someone else, and just let them cry it out, let them yell it out, let them whatever. And then when they calm down, then you can go and engage with them. This is something hard to do in public when you have a child and he's like screeching his head off, kicking his feet, whatever, and you have like a group of people around, or you're getting bad comments from people. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to stand your ground as a parent, step back, and let this play out. Let your child let this play out, because it does make the parent feel like, I'm being a bad parent because I'm not stopping this, and all these people are looking at me, and they probably think we should be going and helping that kid, but you actually are doing the best thing that you can for them, as long as the child is not hurting themselves, like they're not banging their head against the floor, or they're not actively trying to hurt anybody else during this, like they're not running around throwing stuff off the shelves and hitting people. So if they're sitting and crying and kicking their feet or whatever, let them do it. Let them calm down. It is the hardest thing to do as a parent. The hardest thing to do. But it actually does help them. I remember one time Buddy had a thing where if we walked anywhere, he had to have me carry him. And this is when he was like definitely old enough to walk, 5, 6 years old. Definitely old enough to walk. But he wanted me to carry him. And we literally lived right across the street from the school. And we had went across the street so we could play in the schoolyard, the little playground there. And then on the way back, he wanted me to carry him across the road. No, we live in a teeny tiny little town, so it was just like a two-lane road or whatever, and I don't know how many feet across to our house. And he would not come across that street unless I carried him. And he started to throw a little fit. And I left him across the street. I walked across the street, and I stood there in my yard while he stood on the other side of that street. Now, this wasn't a busy street by any means. Not at all busy street. Hardly anybody went up and down the street. And he stood there crying and screaming and yelling, I needed to come pick him up. He wasn't going to come across the street. And I stood there on my side of the street. No, you can walk across that street. Because I was trying to teach him to be more independent, And it took him probably almost half an hour or more before he started to move across that street. It was the hardest thing because, we did have neighbors. So it wasn't like it wasn't unnoticed, but I had to, because it had gotten to the point where I could not carry him everywhere. He was old enough to walk. He needed to learn. he needed to do this, and he was having a meltdown. So I waited. I waited for him to decide enough was enough. He was going to make his way across the street. And it did. It took him, he took his time walking across the street once he decided he was going to come. He was going to be on his terms. So he took his time, as much time as he could possibly take to walk across the road, which wasn't a very wide road at all, but he made it. And I won't say that I didn't have any other problems with him after that, here and there, but he knew from that point on if he was going to have a problem, Mom wasn't going to give in. Mom was not going to go back and say, okay, I'll pick you up. Because we went on walks after that where he would just sit his butt down and not want to walk any further until Mom picked him up. Nope. And we'd say, wait. It was less and less, and eventually it was fine. But I get it, and I know how hard it is. And, that's my advice, because that's what I was told. If your child is having a meltdown, let them have the meltdown. But make sure they're safe. They're not hurting themselves. They're not hurting anyone else. And just let them have that meltdown, and then engage with them when they start calming down. Otherwise, it can intensify the meltdown. But that's up to you, what you feel is safe, what you feel comfortable with. I'm not exactly sure what to do if a child is within a shutdown, because I never really had that with any of my boys. And my daughter, I don't think I ever had to deal with a shutdown with them. The boys, it was meltdowns. And yeah, my daughter masked very, very heavily. So her meltdowns weren't seen. But her diagnosis didn't come till she was an adult as well, because she masked so heavily. But yeah, so I just kind of want to impart with everyone that if you're experiencing these things, know that it's a normal. It goes with autism, and it goes, I would like to read some of the triggers for a shutdown. Sensory overload, loud noises, strong smells, bright lights, certain textures. Emotional overload, intense emotions, unexpected changes, disruptions in routine. Yeah. I do not like changes. Cognitive overload, demanding tasks, excessive information to process. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. For sure. If there is just so much information coming to me at one time, it is just too much. I can't. Nope. It'll put me on the verge of a meltdown. And if it continues to keep coming, yeah, there'll be a meltdown. And I can't stand overload of information. Crowded environments and extensive social interactions for social overload. Yeah. Trips to Walmart. Trips to Walmart will trigger a shutdown faster than anything for me. I go to Walmart, and we've had this discussion before in a podcast. I will go to Walmart, and especially on those busy sale days, like I will avoid Black Friday. I won't go to those. I don't like going shopping at Walmart during Christmas. I do, because I like to see all the Christmas stuff, all the the lights and the pretty colors and things like that. But I don't like to be there because of so many people, and it's an overload to me because the store is filled with just like everything. Tons of people, bright lights, lots of noise, And, I deal with that with, I get my loops, I put them in. Sometimes I have a fidget thing or something with me. And I get very distracted in the store, and I tend to wander off from the family. If we go together as a family, or if it's just me and my husband, I tend to wander. Oh, hey, let's go look at this, and I'll be right back. And next thing I know, I'm halfway across the store, calling him, trying to find out where he is. um, and it's the sights, the smells, the sounds, the people, the walking, carts rolling, the beeps, the registers, everything. But by the time I get out to the truck, on the way home, I'm just nothing. It's zero. I'm staring at that fixed point out the window, and my husband will try to talk to me, and I won't answer. And, well, what's the matter with you? Why are you grumpy all of a sudden? I'm not grumpy. I'm tired. Well, why are you tired? Well, there's no reason you should be tired. Yeah. The whole thing just overloaded my whole entire body, sensory overload, just everything. So yeah, I am shut down. I need that break, that quiet, And he does. He feels like I'm snubbing him, or that I just am grumpy, or I don't. It's not that. I need to encase myself into quiet, into my own little, to quote Sherlock, my little thought palace. I just need to be in my little fortress in my head and just be, and I need that for the ride home. And, I've had times where I've had like a really long day where we went to multiple different stores, multiple different towns, and it has taken me like a couple of days to recover from that. And it's hard to explain to a neurotypical why just a shopping trip would mess you up for that long, but it does. It just takes everything out of you because it affects every part of you, your emotional, your senses, your just every part of you. It taxes everything. And I make it sound like none of us can function in life, that we're all just, one little thing can set us off or whatever, but I'd like to explain it as part of the disability, because it is a disability. I don't really like to put it that way, but it is. And there's ways for us to navigate it, ways for us to go through it without having that much of an overload. It's just a matter of managing it. And no matter how much we do manage it, it'll never fully go away. It's not like we'll never ever have a meltdown again. We'll never have a shutdown again. And it'll always be there, but they may not be as bad or may not be as often. But it's a part of us. It's a part of who we are. And I don't see it as a bad thing. But I always wonder if me talking about it, the way I talk about it, maybe I don't explain it right, and that maybe someone would think that it's just, it is bad to deal with, but it's not like we cannot function in society at all. I think what it is society is not set up for us. And like I said before, until the neurotypical and the neurodivergent communities integrate better, they learn how to work hand in hand, it'll be like this. Like, I don't ask for a whole lot of accommodations at work, and I try not to talk about this with my bosses and stuff at work, because yes, I'll admit it, I'm afraid that we'll get eye rolls, or I'll get like, treated differently, or they might think I'm just making this up because, yeah, now suddenly I say I'm this. When, recently diagnosed, not just a few years ago, but still. But I I think if I did talk with them about it, I think it would be better. Like, I don't need a whole lot of combinations other than what I said before. I need things more direct with me. I need time to learn things because I'm smart. It just takes me a while to get into my head. And the sensory issues. I work in a store, of all things. I complain about Walmart, but yet I work in a store. It's a very small store. Um, and but I do get overload at work by the time I get home. It's just so much for me. But um, there is, how do I say this? There's nothing wrong with us. We just operate differently, and we're sensitive in different ways than neurotypicals are, and a lot more sensitive. And I think really that society needs to find a way to help. Like, I do know that Walmart does have sensory friendly store hours. I've never been lucky enough to show up during those times because usually we don't go shopping till later on in the day, but it's in the mornings in case anybody wants to know. I think it's like from 8 to 10 or something like that, where they supposedly are dimming the lights and not playing music or something, which I never remembered Walmart ever playing music, at least the one I shop at. But it's supposed to be a quieter environment and less people. But I would really like to show up one of these days because I think that would be amazing if the lights were dimmed and, it would be cool. But I have babbled on long enough, and I do want to say that I really appreciate my followers. I have 5. I do not know who you are. Most of you I don't know, because they don't tell me who's following me. They just tell me that I have that many. And so right now I have 5. And whoever you are, I am putting a shout out to you and telling you that I really appreciate you and you matter. You matter to me, and I'm sure you matter to a great many people. And that you are loved. And thank you so much. I do appreciate you being there. So I guess that'll be it for right now. But thank you so much for everyone who is listening. And have a blessed day. More later.